Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about what your dismissive avoidant ex is feeling during no contact. So we're going to go into the dismissive avoidant in detail. I've sort of mentioned high-level overviews of an avoidant partner in the past and how they tend to respond to no contact and what they're feeling during this time. So in this video, we're going to presume that the dismissive avoidant ex is the person who did the breaking up with you, and then you're going no contact. And we're assuming that this is going to take place over a specific period of time. So I'm going to dive into the details, and I'm going to dive a little bit into the why this is important to recognize and to know. But I really want to highlight in here the importance of also being aware of your own boundaries and your own self-worth, and not necessarily trying to use this information to sort of manipulate to get your ex back, because I think that can often go in the opposite direction of our healing and our happiness. But how we can apply this for closure and understanding and insight, and I'm going to give you some other sort of key points in this video about why dismissive avoidant partners often leave somebody in the first place, leave a relationship. So before I dive into all of this, I do want to let you guys know that we are doing scholarships for the Personal Development School during this coronavirus time. And we have a coupon code in the description below that says "with you" in all capital letters. It's one word. And this is for 25% off all course bundles or single course purchases. So anybody who does 3 months, 6 months, 8 month, 12-month memberships to the Personal Development School. We've got lots of amazing new community members coming in. I think it's because there's this big transition to being at home. And one of the most important things, and I say this every time, but you know, whether it's signing up for the school or whether it's just doing things that empower you while you're at home, one of the most important things you can do is be intentional with what you want to take away from this time. You're sort of a little more isolated than usual. And if we just react to circumstances, if we're just sort of like, oh my gosh, taking things as they come instead of being intentional, like what goals do we have for ourselves during this time? How can we pivot and come up with creative strategies to get our needs met? And what are our needs in the first place? And how can we sort of derive them so we look back during this time in our lives and go, oh, you know, that was really tough, but we took a lot of things out of it. We built the relationship to ourselves. We learned, we read those books we always wanted to read. You know, I won't harp on this too much, but the more intentional we are with how we choose to spend this time, and the more we have goals for ourselves and develop really healthy habits, the more sort of empowered we'll be, and the better we'll be able to ride this time out. So we are offering also money back guarantee. So if anybody signs up and then there is some kind of challenge later financially, you can reach out to us and we'll be able to discount your membership or just give you your full money back if you lose a job or anything like that. So feel free to know that like we're here to support you, and we want to support your growth and your ability to sort of connect to yourself during this time and feel empowered. So without further ado, I'm going to dive into some of the content. So number one, as we go into this, I want to be clear, you know, a lot of these no contact rules, I see a lot of different, you know, dating coaches or therapists or people on the internet being like, here's why no contact works and here's how to get your ex back. And sometimes it is a good thing, you know, in certain occasions, sometimes people do make mistakes and they have time to sort of recognize their mistakes and that they left a relationship too early. And then it's through that recognition that they can decide to take a different path. And sometimes I do see these relationships working out long term. I really do. But a lot more often than not, people are using no contact and they're doing this to sort of like try to get their ex back. And they haven't taken into consideration, like, what are my boundaries? Where is my worth? Like, where am I at in my healing through this process, so that I can sit here and I can recognize, okay, am I focusing on how I can get my ex back instead of embarking on my healing journey? And that's what I want to be clear about. So I really want to make the intention of these videos about closure and understanding. So first and foremost, the first 6 weeks, the dismissal avoidant partner who breaks up with their ex often feels sort of free or relieved. Now, this may not be for the reasons that you think, and I'm going to go into what that means. Now, dismissive avoidants will also feel like small twinges at times of missing their partner. This isn't uncommon. Like, every human being feels twinges from detachment, even if you're an expert at repressing your feelings like most dismissive avoidants are. However, sometimes if a long relationship ends and it's been a while in the relationship dynamic, like years, or you're married or have kids or have lived together, more often than not, we'll see the dismissive avoidant feel relieved on one hand, but also sort of go into this frozen state, which can be sort of like their fight, flight, or freeze mode. And they'll go into that freeze mode and they can disconnect and sort of repress from their own emotions and their feelings even further. A lot of dismissive avoidants are often high functioning depressed, like struggle with high functioning depression. Like, this isn't uncommon, and I also see a lot of this tend to go undiagnosed. And this is because dismissive avoidants generally have like these amazing escapism tools. Like, they've really solidified how to avoid their emotions through like binge watching Netflix or television or the news, or they tend to have their things that they dive right into. And so this isn't uncommon. But dismissive avoidance often, and I'm not at all saying for all cases in relationships ever, but often will leave a relationship prematurely, even when they really like or love or care about a person, because they actually are experiencing like these competing needs throughout a lot of the course of a relationship, which is the need to get closer and have that vulnerability and connection and love, and to receive love, like that need for attachment that we are all wired with. But then the triggered associations to attachment and how it felt really uncomfortable in previous experiences in their lives, and how those associations have been programmed at the subconscious level, and those are surfacing all the time. And so they'll often feel this like desire for closeness, but it feels discomforting or uncomfortable at the same time, and even triggering. And these two things are rubbing up against each other a lot, and often creating a lot of friction in that dismissive avoidance into sort of internal reality. So DAs are often breaking up because they're actually sick of feeling that triggering stuff. And again, this doesn't apply to like every single case, but this is, I would say, extremely common. Even if somebody is breaking up because they're unhappy, that's still part of what's in the mix. So it sort of triggers that exiting of the relationship even sooner than individuals from other attachment styles. Now, during this time of this first 6 weeks, because we know that the first 6 weeks, dismissive avoidants are good at just sort of repressing their feelings. And again, they're often feeling relieved, and they're feeling relieved from that sort of pervasive triggering that's happening in the background with that other side of their competing needs. Now, during the 6 weeks, they can often be in sort of a state of excessive numbness as well. And they can feel relieved, but that doesn't mean they necessarily feel better overall, if that makes sense. It's just a new sort of type of pain, which is that subtle dissociation or disconnection from themselves and their feelings. Around 6 weeks, they may start to question their decision. So around the 6-week mark, this is when we start to see them experience more curiosity about where you're at, how you're doing, maybe some doubt in their decision, subtle feelings of regret. And it's right around this time that they start to sort of be on the fence. Now, 6 weeks is sort of the average, okay? 6 weeks to 3 months is the average. So it's like the tipping point of the initial average. There are outliers, of course, like this is, if you imagined it on like a graph, there would be outliers of people as late as 4 months that start to feel some of these feelings, sometimes a little bit earlier than 6 weeks, but rarely so. And during this time, the dismissive avoidant starts to wonder, like, okay, why aren't you contacting me? And they start to feel some of those feelings of rejection as well, and sometimes remorse. However, I want to be really clear here. Sometimes they're also just looking to know that they are cared about. And they might reach out to you indirectly during this time to test the waters. But it's very important that you don't assume that this means they want to get back together. Even if they are remorseful about their decision or even have subtle feelings of regret, that doesn't mean the dismissive avoidant partner wants to be back together. And usually when there's a breakup, they're even more closed down and protective of themselves. So it's even more rare that the DA dives back into a relationship. This is different with different attachment styles. Sometimes when they're sort of at their tipping point of wanting that connection, they are very open to getting back together during this time. But dismissive avoidants often are just looking to have their bucket of emotional needs filled. But their bucket is often smaller than others, which means those needs will be filled faster. So a quick little conversation or a check-in, or you responding back and asking how they are, that might fill their bucket enough. And it doesn't necessarily mean that this partner is wanting to be back together in a relationship. I do have another video that talks about signs that the person is remorseful or regretful, but I will do a separate video about how to know if they want to be back in the relationship or not, because those are still two different things. Not completely, there are definitely a lot of similarities, but they are nuanced. And I also have a how to heal from a breakup course coming out in the personal development school really soon, so stay tuned for that as well if this is something that you're going through and experiencing, and we talk about all these nuances in that course. So what I want to tell you is, during this time, make sure that you focus on you and your healing. Make sure if you're going no contact is for you to be able to protect yourself from pain. And if somebody turns around, like if you're going no contact and then somebody turns around and shows up and says, you know what, I regret my decision and I want to work things out and put in the work, and they're open to having conscious conversations that are constructive, where you can discuss, what to do and how to proceed and all these different things, these are great signs. These are signs that this relationship could work. But if you're just getting somebody reaching out indirectly that's like, hey, or sends you a picture or a meme or something so indirect, these aren't tangible things that are going to give you hope that, hey, it'll be different this time around. So we really want to assess those things effectively. And in fact, I'm going to write this down because I just had the idea I should do a video about how to assess those things and how to know whether somebody is open to reconnection in a way that will benefit you, because we don't want to get these things mixed up and then put ourselves through the ringer again. We want to be able to heal, be in relationship to ourselves, be clear about what we would need if somebody did come back, and be able to bring that up and say, look, this is what I'm interested in if we're going to try to rekindle the relationship, and set those boundaries for yourself so that you are loving and protecting your own heart during this process as well. So if you're going through this, I'm sorry, I know it's not easy. Breakups are very challenging, and we're grieving. This is really what it is. It's a period of grief for a lot of us, especially in longer term relationships. So I feel you and I understand. And if you have any questions or any further comments or want to see any videos, I'm keeping track, and I will add some more content and answer some of those questions in future videos. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel, and I will see you in the next video.